Good morning. Good me on this question. So to introduce today's shir on the counting of the Omer, so a well-known question, if, as it is explained in many of the commentators, and in fact it's mentioned in the Midrash, it's hinted at clearly in the Pesukim that one of the concepts of counting the Omer is to count the days when we're released from Egyptian enslavement to reach the true purpose of the exodus from Egypt, which was to reach the level of receiving divine revelation at Sinai. As it says in the first revelation of Hashem to Moshe Rabbeinu, when you take out the people from Egypt, you should serve Hashem on this mountain of Sinai. And the same, when there's the noon there, at the end of Tavdun, is explained to refer to the 50 days from the day they went out from Egypt, the 15th of Nisan, until going through many trials in the desert, they reached the height of what it says in the 90th chapter of Shemos, the people encamped opposite the mountain of Sinai like one person with one heart to receive divine prophecy. So what is the concept of the counting of the days? It's like a person who's been freed, who's been told, prepare yourself, you're a slave, or you're a prisoner, and in 50 days you'll be able to become a free man. So you count the days. How do you count the days? You start with what? You start with 49 days, and then you go down. 49 days till I'm free. We know the ultimate. Zaman Cherutenu is the phrase we use from being released from Egyptian enslavement and persecution. Nevertheless, it's not complete freedom. And we say the people are only considered free with Chirut ala Luchot, when they accepted the Torah. And the same idea is also in the four expressions of redemption, where it says, I'll take you out, that's the 6th chapter of Shemot. I'll take you out from enslavement of Egypt. But the fourth, it's only when you reach the fourth level, I will take you for myself unto a nation, which is only fulfilled with the giving of the Torah. And then we count the days, the counting should be the other way around. So, in fact, in the previous year we answered that question. In fact, the Doran gave the answer. Why we count from 1 till 49 instead of 49 till 1. What answer did you give last time?
Because we're not only looking forward, but we're also growing spiritually.
It's a question of growth. See, there's another parable you can give. But the sages say the people of Israel became engaged to Hashem when he took us out from Egypt. As we say in the morning of the Tefillin, Lashon Arusa. But they became married to Hashem, as it were, at Har Sinai. That is why many of the customs of getting married are like paralleled by the giving of the Torah at Sinai. In fact, Hashem made the mountain like a chuppah to cover over the chosn and the kala, as it were. In this instance, the kala is Am Yisrael, the chosn is Hashem, as it were, kivyachol. So also the lights which one takes of the chuppah represent the lights, the lightning which took place given the Torah. The two sets of parents, both sides, the chos and the kala, is like Moshe and Aaron, and the giving of the ketuvah is like the giving of the Torah. So many of the customs of marriage go back to the concept, of course, only as a symbol, as a metaphor, of the bond which took place between Hashem and the people of Israel. So it's like one compares it to a couple who get engaged, and quite many of them, they say, well, it's another 50 days to the chuppah, so they count the days. 50 days, 49 days, 48 days, like you said. Yeah, but that's the concept of being in suspense. But there's another aspect. Chosn and kala, in fact, our custom is like that as well. They have to have, in the days from the engagement to the marriage, they've also got to learn to build up a preparation for married life. So that, generally speaking, one has a madrich to demonstrate to both sides, the chosn and the kala, how they've got to prepare themselves, how they've got to grow in their character, in their behavior, to make a good marriage. The good marriage depends, let's say, if in previous life in yeshiva, you've been accustomed that in some yeshivas it's like that, where you don't have to lift a finger. Then you've got everything is done for you. Don't have to take up any job, just to sit and learn, and be concerned that you make progress in your learning. And frequently you want to get a prize, so therefore you're working hard just about your learning. And you don't think so much of other people, what you've got to do. You've got no responsibilities in the yeshiva, just be a good person, and that's it. Don't have to do any cleaning of your room. You don't have to clear up after you've eaten, to clear up the table. You don't have any form of preparation. And therefore, you sometimes, in Torah society as well, and at home also, they tell you, oh, you just go to yeshiva, you don't have to help us. So they don't get used to the idea of what marriage entails. In marriage, you've got to always think of your marriage partner. You can't just expect your wife, she's going to do everything, even when she's pregnant and so on, you're not going to help her. And there are such situations, people, they become so self-centered, and that's why every chatan and kala, they need to have preparation, quite apart from all the preparation for the din and the special laws as well, of Tarat Mishpacha, of which they weren't aware, and you have to learn all the dinim, which because the people know in Haredi life, so you don't mix with the opposite sex, so you don't even know what it's like. You think that when you get married, some of the women think that surely the chosn's got to be like my best friend, my best female friend, and the chosn think got to be my male friend, because they never have any other friends. If they go into marriage, they don't know that, as they say today, what do they say? That man is from Mars and women are from Venus, two different planets. So how do you bring them together? You've got to bring them together, so they need training. Similarly, Am Yisrael was so far removed from Hashem, they have training. And therefore you have to build up each day to train in midot. You've got to have training in midot, how to behave. That's one aspect. Now, I would be very grateful now for this shir. First we'll sit around the table. Can you sit around here, around the table? It's easier. And everyone take for yourselves a Jerusalem Bible. Because to understand Sefirat HaOlam, we've spoken a lot about it. But let's analyze certain things which are really written in the Chumash. but you've got to be able to see it clearly. This year is going to be based, we've started talking about already, what's the difference between the Shemitah and the Yovel, and what's the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov. We explained already that Pesach is referred to as Shabbos, although it was Yom Tov, that we saw from previous year. And now we're going to ask something else, all interrelated.
How can you have 2 years without, if the 49th year is a Shemitah year and the 50th year is Yovel year, you can't reap the field. It's just 2 years. So what are you going to eat?
So that's when you get a blessing for an extra year.
So the
It says already, Hashem gives a blessing for 3 years in the 6th year, in order to include the possibility of Yovel. But it's this year. But even, you're quite right, even if we say, follow the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, it's also a question, I might say, because if you have the 50th year, if it's an additional year, it's certainly a strong question. And even if you say like Rabbi Yehuda, that the 50th year is the first year of the next Shemitah, but it is more serious, because then you're having a Shemitah followed by another Shemitah, as it were. Because also, if there's a Yovel, when there is a Jubilee, then all the laws of Shemitah also apply. So having 2 consecutive years of Shemitah. So the answer is the blessing goes for 3 years. But now we'll deal with another matter. The clue for this is really given in 2 ways. First of all, we know that the way we count the days and the weeks. And that the Ashkenazi custom is that we say today is so and so many days, which is equivalent to so many weeks and so many days. That's how we say it in the Nusach Ashkenazi. But there are many Sephardim, also the Temanim, who also many of the Sephardi customs are to do it differently. And first of all, you count the days, and then you count the weeks separately. The way you count, there's so many days and so many weeks. It's not the equivalent. We tried different nusach. I'll give it to you more exactly. That the Sephardim have it like this. You say, they say the word ba'omer only by the days. Hayom 10 yamim ba'omer, shem shavua echad u'shlosha yamim. That's what Sephardim do. They separate the two. So, we've got to understand what lies behind this. Behind this lies a statement made in the Gemara by Abaya that it's a mitzvah to count the days and a mitzvah to count the years. So is this one mitzvah or 2 mitzvot? 2 separate ones. So the Rambam, and also even the others, the Bali Tosfot and the Rosh, there's a difference of opinion. Is Firat HaOmer today min HaTorah or is it midrabanan? If for example, there is a custom amongst some of the Ashkenazim, and also you find it in the Vilna Siddur and many others, that the only thing you say after counting the Omer, you say Rachmon Yachzeh Beit HaMikdash. May Hashem give us back the Beit HaMikdash soon. In other words, they say that really counting the Omer today is only midrabanan, because there's no Omer. There's no Omer offering. There's no Beit HaMikdash. Therefore, the Zeichel HaMikdash. This is based upon the interpretation of a certain Gemara, few Gemaras. Where there is a statement, it's Zeichel HaMikdash, today. There's no problem. Because if you turn, let's turn to the key phrases. If you turn to chapter 23 of the Chumash, which is on page 145, let's have a look. What does it say? After describing the festival of Pesach, it then describes the bringing of the Omer. So passage from verse 9 till verse 14, and then verse 15 says, "Osfatem lachem," you should count for yourself, Mochrat Shabbat, from the day when you bring the Omer of the waving, 7 complete Shabbatot there should be until the morrow, the 7th Shabbat. There's Tisbru Chamishim Yom. You should count for 50 days, or up to 50 days. And then you bring a new offering to Hashem. New offering being the 2 loaves of bread. The Omer was brought in just as flour. It was a flour offering, not made into a cake or a loaf. So it's all linked with the offering, with the service. It's linked together when you bring a new offering when it comes to Shavuot. Where did they bring offerings? Where were they brought?
To Beit HaMikdash.
In the temple. They said this is the way to fulfill it when there'll be a temple. When you be in Eretz Israel. It says Ki tavo el haaretz, verse 10. So therefore today we don't have the temple. So therefore today, counting the Omer is midrabanan, and therefore you don't, and this is the opinion of Tosfos and Rosh and other Rishonim. Today, Tfilat HaOmer is midrabanan, and some even say that the fact that in the Omer period, there's a bit of a period of mourning, it's mourning for the loss of the Beit HaMikdash as well, because we can't fulfill the mitzvah of Omer. Yeah, that is one opinion. Against that, we've got the opinion of the Rambam, and also the Chinuch Tzimtzulakim and other Rishonim, who says that the counting of the Omer is not dependent upon having a temple, having offerings. Even without the offerings, there's a mitzvah of the Torah. And he bases it also in part because Abaya says, the Gemara, that there's a mitzvah to count the days, a mitzvah to count the weeks, and the Rambam holds in Sefer HaMitzvot to use the expression, it's one mitzvah. Even though it says there's 2 parts to the mitzvah, it doesn't mean they're 2 separate mitzvahs, and you don't make 2 brachot, one bracha, and it applies at all times. Because when it says here, if you look carefully, it says you count them, so the implication is, okay, it's true the counting is from the day when you bring the Omer, which is where? In
the Beit
HaMikdash. And then it says though, it's Tisbru Chamishim Yom, we've got to count the days you've got to count in any case. So the verse implies in any case you count. And the Rambam's proves there's one mitzvah, he says it's similar to, he's compared also to the count of the Shemitah and the Yovel. It's very interesting, that makes the comparison, because that's exactly the subject of from the Shir of ours. The counting of the Shemitah and Yovel is somewhat similar. And also here, there's a din of counting. Who has to count? The Bedouin have to count. And they have to count to reach the Jubilee, so also they count 7 times Shemitah. Similar as you have 7 times a Shabbat, 7 times a week. 7 weeks and 7 Shemitah. And the conclusion, the 50th day or the 50th year. It's a parallel between the 2. It's just like counting by Shemitah and Yovel is one mitzvah. That means there could be times where there's no Jubilee, but still there's a mitzvah to count. You call them, but it's mitzvahs only on the Bezdin. There's no mitzvah on individuals to have to count. Because Shemitah is for the whole country, so therefore it has to do with the Bezdin. But he says it's considered one mitzvah. It's the Shittas Rambam. However, when Abaya says it's a mitzvah to count days and weeks, days he learns out from this passage which we've just read here. But there's another passage. It's in Sefer Dvarim. In Sefer Dvarim, we also have a list of the festivals in Parshat Re'eh. You have a look in you look on page 231, the Jerusalem Bible. So then it also describes here, beginning of chapter 16, observance of Pesach. And after describing Pesach, in verse 9 it says, Shiva Shavuot Tispolach, we should count 7 weeks, Me'achil Chemish Bakama, when the scythe begins to cut down the standing grain, Tachel Lispor, then you should start counting Shiva Shavuot, 7 weeks. Vasita Chag Shavuot Hashem, you should make a festival of weeks for Hashem. And then describes how you've got to, on that festival, you've got to help everyone else in your society, those who are poor and the Levite, and you've got to remember you were a slave in Egypt, therefore you should observe these festivals. Then it goes over to Sukkot. Now, if you compare something you don't see the forest because you see too many trees. In other words, when you look at the Parsha, it's important to look at the whole Parsha also. So, can you explain to me, I want you to think about it, what is the difference between the way in which the festivals are described in this chapter 16 of Dvarim and the way in which the festivals were described in the book of Vayikra, in Parshat Emor, in the chapters we saw just before, chapters 23. And what's the difference between the way in which they're described? Here in the page, what's the difference? Page 145, where we have the festivals, and page 231, where we have the festivals. Which festivals are mentioned in Parshat Re'eh, and which ones are mentioned in Parshat Emor? What's the difference? You notice any difference? Look, in Parshat Emor, after describing Pesach, what comes next? Go back to Vayikra. What comes after Pesach? Which festival? Which festival?
And you should count for yourselves the morrow after the Shabbos.
Sfira, yeah. What comes after Sfira?
Umer.
Pardon?
Wave offering.
Also mentions the final day, the day Min Chadashah, that's Shavuos. And then what did it mention after Shavuos?
The meal offering.
Pardon?
The new meal offering to the...
And what did it describe after Shavuos?
Wave loaves, 2 loaves, they shall bring.
That's all for Shavuos. What's described after Shavuos?
Number 50 days.
Huh?
Shall you... 50 days.
What comes after that? Which is the subject coming after the description of Shavuos? It's in chapter 23, verse 23.
On the 7th month, on the first day
What's that?
of the month, you shall have a Shabbos.
What is it?
Blowing
Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah. And what happens after verse 27 onwards?
7 onwards.
Day of Atonement.
Which festival?
10th day, the Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur. And what's after Yom Kippur?
Atonement and the Sukkot.
Sukkot. Okay. Now, what's the purpose of Dvarim? Why are there so many mitzvahs which are repeated in Dvarim, called Mishneh Torah? Why is it repeated? One of the names for the Sefer Dvarim is called Mishneh Torah, repetition of the Torah. Why was it repeated?
Because there was Moses who repeated it all his life before he died. He gave a speech.
Why? Why'd have to repeat it?
To remind the people of
Which people?
Am Yisrael.
Why'd have to remind them?
Because they might have forgot. They did 40 years in the desert, they might have forgot.
Not only to remind them, what happened to the people who were given the Torah at Sinai? What happened to the other people given the Torah at Sinai? What happened
Most of them were...
Most of the people, nearly all of them, what happened?
Most of them died in the desert.
They died.
In the desert.
So therefore this was a new generation. To teach the new generation. And what was special about the new generation? Why did he give them? He gave them the mitzvot, but with a certain aspect which is emphasized and causes also certain additional dinim. Which ones?
For Shabbat.
The whole of Sefer Dvarim was given on the threshold of the entry into Eretz Israel, and all interrelated with the future settlement in the land, and also to do with the Beit HaMikdash, with the sanctuary. First it was just the sanctuary, but there were certain laws concerning offerings that didn't apply when they're wandering in the desert. Therefore, all the mitzvot that are given in Mishneh Torah, they have additional chidush, they have new aspects which are especially important for them when they went into the land of Israel. So therefore here we have also, in this the specific festival list, is different to the one given in Vayikra. Can you tell me what's the major difference? There's a list of the festivals, and they're described in certain different ways and so on. But what is specifically a major difference? What's the major difference? Can't see? If you look at these two pages, there's a major difference, which you just mentioned. All right, so let's go through. Let's see in the Dvarim. What's the list of festivals? Beginning of chapter 16, the first festival is?
The Navi, the Pesach.
Pesach. Then follows verse 9.
Verse 9 you have 7 weeks, Shavuot. Shavuot, yeah.
What for verse 13, next one?
The Feast of Booths. That's,
which is what?
Sukkot.
Sukkot.
It doesn't mention...
What's missing?
Rosh
Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
Yeah, why they're missing? And then in fact it ends by saying, if you look at this clue is given in verse 16. What does it say, verse 16?
3 times a year shall you make a point.
3 times a year shall go to the place which Hashem will choose. And the whole of Sefer Dvarim is filled with expressions, the place which Hashem will choose.
But you don't,
that means the centrality of the Har Moriah, the Beit HaMikdash. And there it mentions 3 festivals. But it just mentioned 3. Why didn't it mention Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur?
They're not festivals. You have to come to the Beit HaMikdash on Yom Kippur.
No.
No. But it's not regular. It's not all irregular. And the same about Yom
Rosh Hashanah also.
Rosh Hashanah. But it doesn't say. It says on the 7th day, the first day of the 7th month. It doesn't say anything here. What I've said doesn't say anything about Rosh Hashanah.
That's right.
So why is it Rosh Hashanah?
Why not? Why doesn't it mention Rosh Hashanah?
It just says on the 7th month. It doesn't seem to say the first month. It says the 7th month. So why does it say anything about Rosh Hashanah?
So what's the answer? What's the answer? Can they explain why? I explained why. Like this. Nearly all the mitzvot given in Sefer Dvarim are those aspects which are especially important for the centralized service of the Beit HaMikdash. There are many mitzvot given which are entirely dependent on the land and don't apply if you're not in the land. Early on, the mitzvot are primarily the mitzvot which apply everywhere, in the previous books. So therefore, the mitzvah of Shon Yom Kippur applies everywhere. You have to keep it. You have to fast even if you're in Honolulu, and even wherever you are in America, in Europe, you have to fast in Yom Kippur just like to fast in Eretz Yisrael. You have to observe listening to the shofar everywhere. Zechor Teruah, Rosh Hashanah. But when you're in Eretz Yisrael, also these mitzvahs apply everywhere in Eretz Yisrael. But the emphasis on what extra aspect is there which brings the whole nation together in the service of the temple. And for that there are only 3 regalim. Only Pesach, Shavuos and Sukkot are festivals when a person's got an obligation to bring his offering in Yerushalayim. But the other festivals, there's no such obligation. So therefore, the others aren't mentioned. And if you look carefully, this is particularly to do with the way in which the centralized service in Beit HaMikdash should influence the rest of the nation. They've got a din of Aliyah L'Rega. Other days, the people are asked, stay at home. Rosh Hashanah, you have to shoot, you've got to make wherever you are in the world. In Kippur, you have to observe everywhere. It says, it emphasizes. Now, in the light of all this, we'll also now see what's the difference in the description of counting the Omer. Because in Dvarim it only mentions count the weeks. And that's the only place where it mentions it's called the festival of Shavuot, festival of weeks. So we see the festival of weeks is the week aspect of counting, is specifically connected with the divine service in Beit HaMikdash, and especially connected with Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. The counting of the days is separate. It's still counting to the Omer, and because it's like this, if the Omer would only mean the offering brought in the Beit HaMikdash, that was the only meaning of it, then it would be difficult to understand. But I already told you, I think even here as well, the Omer itself, why is it given that name? Before we learned this other sugya, you wouldn't be able to understand it. Why is it called the Omer? Why is it
finding ourselves?
But what is it? What is the Omer?
Omer is a measurement.
It's a measurement. Where does that measurement start? If you would only start with the Beit HaMikdash, you'd say it wasn't. With the Mon. Yeah? And the Mon was before there was the Beit HaMikdash, before the Torah was given. And that's when you count to the Omer, you don't only count to this small measure of flour from barley, which is brought in the temple, but you count from the Omer as it's mentioned originally. In the desert, it's the Mon. And the Mon has universal significance. As we explained, the Mon teaches us every Shabbos is a source of your livelihood. And HaKadosh Boruch will see to it, you have enough for the whole week. If you observe the Shabbos will provide for your sustenance constantly. So therefore, since the Omer is even before the Beit HaMikdash, before the giving of the Torah, therefore, the counting that's mentioned of the days, to count the days to the Omer, is something which applies whether you're in Eretz Yisrael or whether you apply elsewhere. So I'll tell you this like this. I told you the major big part Rishonim. So the Rambam says, counting the Omer is a mitzvah for all times, everywhere. Both days and weeks, he says. And the Tosfos and the Rosh and the others, they say it's the Rabbanon today because there's no Beit HaMikdash. I don't want one of the earliest authorities called Rabbi Yerucham, is that counting the days, it's the law of the Torah, counting the weeks, the law of the Torah applies everywhere, counting the weeks is dependent whether you've got Beis HaMikdash. If you don't have Beis HaMikdash, it's only the Rabbanon. In the time of the Beis HaMikdash, they said 2 brachas. One are counting the weeks, and one counting the days. But today, when we don't have Beis HaMikdash, so you can only say a bracha on the one of counting the days. Because the days are tied to the Omer everywhere, to the original Omer. They apply even if there's no offering brought, but the original Omer was before the offerings, was the Mon. That applies always. And counting the weeks, that's a Shiva Shovot Tzbalak, when you've got Beit HaMikdash. And maybe the Rama also, in one point of outlook, holds the same. He says it's really one mitzvah. Count the weeks in them. So how can it be mitzvah when there's no Omer? The Rama might also say that he says we don't, since the mitzvah of counting the Omer is mentioned in connection with the offerings, and also has a concept beyond the offerings, therefore it applies at all times. It's one unified mitzvah. But even if he's based also on, perhaps on the outlook that the Omer precedes the Beit HaMikdash. And therefore it applies for all times, even when you have the additional offerings of it leading to Shtei HaLechem. So this is a bit of a chiddush, but I think if we take together the lesson we learned from the origin of the Omer, and then we can develop the concept of the individual improvement of each person, which comes to internalizing the lesson of the Shabbat. That's the basis of it, the lesson of Shabbat as taught in the desert with the Mon. And then when you have a Beit HaMikdash, we have this concept of the week, which we'll go into. But let's say all offerings you want to bring in the Beit HaMikdash of animals, it says that the animal can only be offered up from the 8th day onwards. For the first 7 days, is called Yeshivat Yom Shvahala. Only afterwards, from the 8th day, it becomes suitable for a korban. So that will explain next year that this concept of 7 is closely connected with the divine service at Beit HaMikdash. But the concept of counting 49 days is concerned with each individual service. We'd say, Limno, Chamenu, Keno, how can a person grow? Only if it counts each day.
Can I ask the question? Why is it barley and not wheat, which is food for men?
Yeah.
Where in the desert, the man was food for man. So why do they bring barley, which is food for animals, and not wheat?
Well, did you answer? You already gave the answer a few times. Because as long as you don't take upon yourself to grow from the level of a human, two-legged animal, then you can't receive the Torah. Yeah? You've got to work hard to go up the ladder that leads you from the animalistic power in the human being to recognize the supremacy of the divine image in the human being.
Elochit Bahema Elochit Nefesh Bahema to Nefesh Elochit.